evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another invigorating episode of webinar with legendary CA Vimal Jain ji. If you are able to hear me, can I just see a thumbs up from your end? That will give me a certain boost. Thank you so much for that. So before I hand over the dice to legendary Bimal Jain ji, I would like short moment to introduce the legendary CA Bimal Jain ji. As we go ahead, Bimalji requires no introduction at all, as he is a well-known and an astounding financial guru in the world of finance. Yet I actually feel good whenever I introduce him, because he is someone, as an Indian, I feel really proud that we are having such an asset to our nation in the financial world. So, as we all know, Bimal Jain ji is having a couple of decades of experience. In fact, he has been a CA for the last 25 years. So we can say that the wealth of experience that he is having when he would be creating this particular session for us. On top of that, he is an advocate as well, and more so, his glories does not end here at all. He is having around 18 years of experience with great companies like LG, Honda, Hindustan Development Corp, and now an executive chairman of A to Z Tax Corp, which is helping Indian companies to file their tax and other financial requirements as such. He is having hands-on experience in providing opinion and advisory services, carrying diagnostic of business operation review, structuring of business model undertaking litigation services at all appropriate platforms. Not everyone would be knowing this, but Bimal ji has also been a keynote speaker at Guinness World Records made by ICSI in the largest taxation mission on GST, which was graced by 4,500 participants, breaking record of Japan. Just imagine an Indian breaking records of developed countries like Japan. This is the great aura of Bimal Jain ji. And we are truly graced by his presence, and we would absolutely love to hear from Bimal Genji in a single minute. Not only this, he has won numerous awards from various schools like Amity School Noida, Best Speaker Award from NIRC, ICAI, ICWAI, Young Achievement Award at Igniting Minds 2015, and also Best Participating Award in NSOP 117 batch by the ICSI. So, without further ado, I mean, we are all waiting to hear from Vimal ji. Let us warmly welcome CA Vimal Jain once more, a true luminary in the field of taxation, and let us all gain from his vast reservoir of knowledge and experience. But one small question before we begin. Vimal Jain ji, as always, I ask you one personal question. So, last time, what we asked, I just want to capitalize on that. So, when you were growing up, what was that one thing that led you to decide that, okay, I want to make a mark in the world of finance and advocacy? And then the dice is all yours for you and your attendees. Thank you so much.
Just give me us 1 minute. I'm settling down. Just give me 1 minute only.
Till sir comes up, I would request everyone to get your notepads ready, and let's give him a warm round of applause digitally by the time he comes in.
Yeah, Hers, good afternoon, and good afternoon to all the participants who are joining today. Hope I'm audible and visible to each one of you. If I'm audible, visible, we will start within a minute. So, Hers, thank you very much for your lovely introduction. It looks like you came very well prepared today, and you have made a very interesting way to introducing me today. And your questions, sorry, I missed it. If you can repeat once, then I can reply you back.
Completely my pleasure, and thank you, sir, for my warm regards of appreciation. It does boost me. So I just wanted for all the audiences and their young kids whom they will be guiding as well. We wanted to know from you. that what made you decide when you were a kid or growing up that you want to make a mark in the field of finance and advocacy? So we would all love to know about it.
I do not know, but nevertheless, let me tell you what was the background and where from I came. And maybe I will request all the participants, they can also join in. See, there are Hindi say, uh, I don't know. I do not want to, say big about myself. It is to be left to my viewers, my all friends who are loving me so much. So credit goes to them. But for me, when I took up, commerce as a background after getting qualified class 10, then commerce, there were limited options during those days, during 87, 88. It was chartered accountant was the most preferred one during those days. So I preferred to be a chartered accountant, and that is how my journey of picking up commerce and becoming a chartered accountant. And once I become chartered accountant, then I looked for company secretary qualification. This journey is going on because I feel life is ever going and ever growing. So after that, I did complete my law, and presently I'm practicing as an advocate. So that is how I started hers. That is the background.
Thank you. I mean, we are all very glad you took that decision, and we have an asset in form of you in the world of finance. Thank you so much, Vimal Jainji, and the dice is all yours.
Okay, let me start now. So without taking much time, I'm starting myself. Yeah. So today's topic is the important compliances for closure of financial year 22-23, April 22 to March 23. We are in the month of September 23. From GST perspective, I'm going to give you important takeaway which you must note today. If you want to really see the best of GST compliances for the closure of financial year 22-23. It's one of the webinar with Zoho Books will give you the important one. So maybe you'd be ready with your paper, pen. You have to just note down. And whenever I'm posting query, you must reply in question answers tab. And of course, you can post your questions, and we will try to take your questions for answering at the end of the webinar. And I'm ensuring each one of you, rest assured, you would be delighted. So whatever 1 hour, 1.5 hours you're going to devote today, I will make sure that you are loving the subject matter and understanding the subject matter for best of the compliances for the closure of financial year 22-23 from GST perspective. Let me start my first category or topic or bucket. See, I've divided my webinar into 3 components today. First, I'm going to discuss on outward supply, then on ITC, then on compliances, and if you have done any omission or error, how to rectify in GST scenario. So having said that, let me start my very first topic pertaining to outward supply. Now, when you look at outward supply, importantly, what we do as on date, we are filing GSTR1 and corresponding outward supply we are showing in GSTR3B. And this 1 and 3B, we need to match with the books of accounts. Now, while matching with the books of accounts, there has to be reconciliation to be prepared. and you should be ready to get it prepared in such a way that you would be easy to prepare your GSTR 9 and 9C. Now, so what are the compliances importantly in outward supply? The first one, classification and GST rate. Though I'm talking about financial year 22-23, but it is important you must revisit your classification of goods and classification of services and corresponding HSN for the goods, SSE code for services. And I'm sure you must be knowing that, but I'm repeating the same. From 1st April 2021, it is compulsorily for quoting of minimum 4-digit for those registered person whose aggregate turnover is up to 5 crore. 4-digit for all B2B supply. If your aggregate turnover is up to 5 crore. For B2C, it is optional. But if your aggregate turnover is more than 5 crore, then compulsorily 6-digit HSN code for goods, SSE code for services. Compulsory, whether it is B2B supply or B2C supply. And I'm sure you must know the meaning of B2B versus B2C. Simple. Registered supplier to registered recipient B2B, registered supplier to unregistered recipient B2C. So if aggregate turnover more than 5 crore, compulsorily 6-digit HSN code for goods, SSE code for services. If it is export and import of goods, quite obvious, 8-digit HSN code need to be mentioned. Now, having said classification and corresponding HSN code and SAC compliances, you need to go back and check all your tax invoices. Simultaneously, next responsibility would be to check GST rate as applicable for the goods corresponding to its HSN code or SSE code for services, where from you will check and verify. If you want to cross-check GST rate for any particular goods, you need to go back notification number 1/2017 under CGST. And there is corresponding notification in IGST and SGST or UTGST. So for cross-checking and verification of rate, GST rate, so you have to go back to 1/2017 for goods. What about services? 11/2017. 11/2017 under CGST. So this is for the rate checking and verification. Why it is important? It is important for the region that you must ensure that you are properly classifying your goods or services and corresponding GST rate as applicable. So I have explained to all of you that what is the classification and importance of rate. Now, having said that, next important point, and which is very much important. When we look at any business transaction, we have several queries in our mind. What is that query in our mind? That, sir, if I have received the advance money, supply of goods at a future date, whether GST applicable on advance money. Sometime I am being asked, that I have received the money, if I don't disclose, don't raise invoice, then why? With the GST leviable. Sometime I get a question, that sir, I've raised the invoice, but I am not being received the payment from my customer. Do we need to pay GST? These are the questions still haunting, and we are asking these questions one by one. I'm going to answer each one of you today. For determining that GST leviable, of course, we have to go back to chargeable section 9 of CGST Act, rate based section 5 of IGST Act. Then we have to check whether supply made or not made, supply of goods or services. Now, what is important, we have to check. For checking out whether advance money received for supply of goods, whether chargeable to GST, then we have to go back to time of supply provision. Section 12 of CGST Act. Section 12 subsection 2 is talking about that earliest of two event would be the time of supply, point of taxation. I will explain what is this point of taxation. If I'm a supplier of goods, if I've raised the invoice, then date of invoice would be the time of supply, A, and B, it's last date when I'm supposed to raise invoice. So sometime you're not raising invoice and you are assuming that no GST leviable. You have supplied the goods, but still not raised the invoice, and your confusion and assumption is no GST leviable to done away with. To remove this mistake, please bear in your mind, there is specific provision in GST law under section 31 subsection 1 of CGST Act by when you should raise the invoice. So time of supply talking about date when you are raising invoice or last date when you're supposed to raise the invoice. So you must know what is the last date. And there was another provision that receipt of money by the supplier. So 3 event was given, and earliest of any event would be the point of taxation. But to tell you and inform you all, no GST against advance receipt for supply of goods. It is being done away with, not applicable. With effect from 15th of November 2017, you may note that advance receipt for supply of goods, no GST. So you have to see only two event, date of invoice and last date when you should raise the invoice. 31 subsection 1. What is that last date? If supply involves movement of goods, then you must raise invoice on or before supply of goods, removal of goods. So supply involves movement of goods, you must ensure you are raising invoice, tax invoice on or before removal of goods. So you can't remove the goods without raising the invoice. If you're doing so, then your transaction would be caught by the department and there would be hefty penalty. 200% of tax amount is the penalty for taxable goods under section 129 of CGST Act. Be careful. If it is any other case, it is not involving movement of goods, then it is being stated when goods are made available or delivery to the recipient, you should raise the invoice. So these are the two criteria when you should raise the invoice. Now, when I'm talking about invoice, I will come back for services as well. So this is what, when supplier is liable to pay GST under forward charge method. GST, we all are aware, is going to be levied by supplier of goods or services generally. But there is specified goods, I'm repeating again, for which recipient buyer is liable to pay GST, not the supplier. And that is falling under reverse charge method, RCM method, reverse charge method. So first of all, you must know where you will come to know that what all goods, specified goods, subject to RCM, for which recipient liable to pay GST. You have to go back to notification number 4/2017. 4/2017, wherein certain goods are being notified subject to RCM liability. When I said RCM, then recipient has to pay GST, right? So what would be point of taxation? What would be time of supply for RCM applicable for goods? Section 12, subsection 3. Maybe I'm repeating some of the things for you, and it would be recap. You may revisit your transaction and check. Earliest of these following transaction which I'm referring would be time of supply. First, date of receipt of goods by the recipient, because recipient need to pay GST under reverse charge. Date of payment by the recipient, or date following the end of 30 days, 30, from date of invoice raised by the supplier of goods. So you have to check these three transactions, three event rather. Whichever is earliest, that would be POT, time of supply provision for GST to be deposited with the department. So this is pertaining to goods. Come back to services now. Services. First, forward charge. The supplier of service is liable to pay GST generally. So supplier of service need to check section 13 subsection 2 of CGST Act. And earliest of three transaction, three event rather, earliest of three would be the point of taxation, time of supply. What is this earliest of three? Date of receipt of payment by the supplier of service. Payment. Second, date of invoice, provided invoice is being raised within specified time period as per section 31 subsection 2 of CGST Act. So what is the time period specified under section 31 subsection 2? It is 30 days. And it is being stated that supplier of service must raise the invoice before or after the provision of service, but within stipulated 30 days time period. So if I'm rendering service today on 25th September, I'm giving one opinion to you today. I must generate tax invoice by 25th, which is, you can say 24th October, 30 days. So this is what 30 days criteria, but it is 45 days for banking and non-banking financial companies. And last one, if you don't raise invoice within a stipulated time period, as I stated now, then date of provision of service. Earliest of 3 even going to be the point of taxation. So if you receive advance money for supply of services, that would be POT, time of supply, GST leviable. You need not require to raise tax invoice, but receipt voucher and GST to be paid. And whenever you raise invoice and corresponding GST, that would be adjusted with the GST paid on advance money received for supply of services. That is how the provision is being governed through GSTR 1 and 3B. So this is for forward charge. When a supplier is liable to pay GST under forward charge method. There's another concept which is called continuous supply of service. What is this continuous supply? If you go back to section 2, subsection 33 of CGST Act, continuous supply of service means a service which is recurrent in nature for a period exceeding more than 3 months, recurring in nature for a period exceeding more than 3 months. So real estate sector, construction sector, renting agreement, where the renting agreement is more than 3 months, continuous. It is continuous supply of service. And for continuous supply of service, there is a provision under section 31, subsection 5 of CGST Act, when you should raise the invoice, because that is one of the event for determining time of supply. So it is being stated under section 31, subsection 5 like this. If payment term is ascertainable from the contract, payment term, due date of payment is ascertainable from the contract, then you should raise the invoice on or before this due date of payment. If payment term is not ascertainable, then when you are receiving the money, so you should raise the invoice on or before this receipt of money. Otherwise, if payment term criteria is not applicable, then the milestone which is defined in the contract, so you should raise invoice on or before that milestone which is defined in the contract as a completion of activity, service. So for continuous supply of service, you need to look at 31 subsection 5. Now coming to the reverse charge, RCM, where recipient of service need to pay GST, not the supplier. Question would be, which notification you will look at to check that what all services are being notified for RCM liability, reverse charge liability. You need to go back notification number 13/2017, 13/2017, to check what all services are notified under RCM, reverse charge method. And what is time of supply? What is time of supply, point of taxation? Listen very carefully. Under section 13, subsection 3. Earliest of these two transactions, date of payment by the recipient or date following the end of 60 days from the date of invoice would be the POT, subject to RCM. Let me ask one question to all of you, because technically I'm saying a lot of provision. Let me put one practical query to all of you. Let's say you got your advocate invoice. Advocate is subject to RCM, right? So business entity has to pay GST. Let's say your advocate has raised invoice on 1st May 1st May 2022. By when you are supposed to pay GST? You have not paid the amount to the advocate. Advocate raised the invoice for 10 lakh. You didn't pay to your advocate. Invoice of advocate was 1st May 2022, financial year 22-23. By when you will pay GST under reverse charge, RCM? Please try. I said earliest of two, date of payment. Date of payment is not there because you haven't paid the amount. Then date following the end of 60 days. So from 1st May 2022, 60 days to be calculated. Date following the end of 60 days would be the POT. You have to pay GST under RCM method. And RCM means you have to pay in cash. You can't use the credit. And if you have delayed in payment, then quite obvious interest is applicable as per this time of supply provision. And interest rate would be 18% per annum. So hope this time of supply, last date when you need to raise the invoice is being explained. Connecting another part to this. We all know that e-invoicing provision is now made applicable. E-invoicing. E-invoicing provision got started from October 2020. Initially, threshold was 500 crore, reduced to 100 crore, 50 crore, 20 crore, 10 crore. Now it is 5 crore. And what is the e-invoicing provision? If you are a registered person in GST and your aggregate turnover exceeding 5 crore in any preceding financial year starting from 17-18, please, in any preceding financial year starting from 17-18, then you are required compulsorily to generate e-invoice from 1st August 2023. 1st August 2023. And when you are a supplier, you are liable to generate e-invoice, then you must generate e-invoice. Because your buyer, your recipient will get credit only on e-invoice generated by you. If you're not raising e-invoice, which you're supposed to, only raising tax invoice, then your buyer will not get credit. Eligible document to avail credit for the buyer is that e-invoice. So such buyer or recipient must cross-check. If you are purchasing from a supplier and supplier threshold aggregate turnover is more than 5 crore in any preceding financial year, starting from 17-18, then compulsorily your supplier must generate the e-invoice. I'm not discussing e-invoice at length, but this is what the provision. And you know that the e-invoicing is applicable for B2G transaction. So registered supplier raising invoice to government organization, government entity, and they are only deducting TDS under section 51. Even though this e-invoice is required, B2G, B2B taxable supplies, I'm saying B2B taxable supplies, corresponding debit note and credit note, and it is also covering your export of goods or services. E-invoice, simple in specified format, specified particulars. As per INB 01, you can generate from any accounting or billing software, converted into JSON file, transmitted to dedicated invoice registration portal, and portal will do deduplication check, verify everything, and then assign unique IRN number, invoice registration number, with QR code and digitally sign. This is called generation of e-invoice. You must go back and cross check. Another related point pertaining to e-invoice, what happens, sir, if system is down? I can't generate e-invoice. I have generated only tax invoice. Can I upload such invoice with a time lag? So maybe 25th of September, I have generated tax invoice. Can I upload, let's say, on 10th of October or 10th of November or 10th of December? You'd be having this question in your mind. Let me clarify you that government has issued advisory and they have said that from 1st November 2023, registered person whose aggregate turnover more than 100 crore, for them time lag, maximum time lag would be only 30 days, 30. So let's say if invoice generated on tax invoice generated on 1st November, then compulsorily they have to upload the particulars and generate unique IRN number by 30th November. After that, IRP portal, invoice registration portal, will not permit. And the threshold only for registered person more than 100 crore. And let me tell you, over a period of time, this is going to be reduced. This is only facilitation measure which is being given by the government, and over a period of time, this is going to be reduced. But from law perspective, if you look at bare law, you should raise invoice as per section 31 subsection 1 for goods, section 31 subsection 2. There's no choice in your hand. You have to generate accordingly. So this is pertaining to e-invoicing. Now coming back to delivery challan. We issue a lot of delivery challan. First, for the job work, you may be registered principal sending input and capital goods to your job worker for job work activity, section 143. And there is specific provision that it should be bring back to your premises, registered principal premises, and period defined age, 1 year for input and 3 years for capital goods, which can further be extended, 1 year for the input and 2 years for capital goods. Permission. You should ensure that such delivery challan whereby you have sent your input and capital goods for job work activity, there has to be corresponding time period compliances. If this time period compliances are not being made, then it is deemed supply. So you have to be careful, revisit all such job work delivery challan. Except this period specific calculation is not applicable for mold, dice, jigs and fixtures. Mold, dice, jigs and fixtures, it is not applicable. So this is what section 143. Another important one, sometimes goods are being sent to the customer for approval. And once approval is being received, then only we are raising invoice, right? Then there is specific provision under section 31 subsection 7. 31 subsection 7. Goods sent on approval must be closed within a maximum period of 6 months. It should come back within 6 months. If it is not coming back within 6 months, then you should raise invoice as and when the 6 months period is getting expired. 31 subsection 7. This is pertaining to delivery challan. Now coming back to credit note. When I'm filing my GSTR1 as a supplier, I've raised the invoice. But after raising invoice, there may be instance that the invoice raised and where taxable value is being shown is a higher amount for any region. Let's say it should be 100, but I have mentioned 120. So it is higher. Even tax payable, I've shown higher. Or there is return of goods, or there is a deficiency in goods or services for specific situation. Section 34, talking about issuance of credit note in GST. And even credit note is being issued for post-supply incentive. Post-supply. After supply, you're giving some discount, incentive to your buyer, to your recipient. After supply is being made, it can be done through a credit note. So what is the time period for issuing a credit note in GST? It is 30th November. So if I'm talking about financial year 22-23, any credit note pertaining to 22-23 must be done by 30th November 2023. So when supplier issuing credit note or adjusting the transaction of its outward supply through this credit note, or giving this credit note for post-supply discount or incentive, of course, we got table 9 of GSTR 1. And during that month, your GST impact, which is coming on credit note, get adjusted with your outward tax liability in that particular month. So corresponding impact which you are filing in table 9 of GSTR 1 get net off in your GSTR 3B. When you're showing your outward supply, then you get the adjustment, corresponding adjustment of this credit note issued 30th November. Make sure. I will come back to this point a little later. I've got one more point to address here, and which we will discuss while discussing ITC. So I'm parking this here. Just keep a note that time period for issuance of credit note is 30th November in GST. The question which is being asked in a trade, do we really require to issue credit note under GST? Can't I issue financial credit note, commercial credit note outside the GST, whereby I will not show any adjustment with my outward tax liability? Neither I will show any adjustment with my outward tax liability, nor buyer or recipient need to reverse corresponding credit which is being taken as adjustment by the supplier. So just to clarify, I'm repeating again, credit note issued by supplier and GST on that credit note amount, supplier gets adjustment of the GST charge on that credit note amount with its outward liability. Simultaneously, to that extent, recipient need to reverse credit so that it becomes revenue neutral whenever credit note under GST. But financial credit note, commercial credit note outside the GST, possible? Answer is yes, possible. If it is outside GST, no point. You need not require to show in 1 or 3B. No adjustment with outward tax liability for supplier. No corresponding reversal by the recipient or buyer. Possible, doable. Financial credit note or commercial credit note. Now for financial credit note or commercial credit note, any time period? No time period. It can be per your convenience. So 30th November criteria, which is applicable for credit note under GST only. For financial credit note, commercial credit note, no time period. Now coming back to debit note. Sometime it may happen that, let's say you have raised invoice for 100 rupees in 22-23. There was price escalation clause in the contract. And as per this price escalation, you will get 10% increase. So this 10% increase, you need to raise the debit note pertaining to your invoice raised in 22-23. Let me ask this question to all of you. Do we have any time limit for issuance of debit note? Please write your answer in question answers tab and answer H. There's no time limit for issuance of debit note. No time limit. You can issue as and when you want. But one corresponding question to all of you, related one. Let's say transaction of 1819. Invoice was 100 rupees. On 25th September 2023, supplier and recipient agreed for the price escalation. Agreed for price escalation on 25th September 2023. Transaction of 1819. Now he is raising debit note dated today, 25th September, pertaining to 1819. My question to all of you, when raising debit note by supplier, GST leviable, no problem. But what happened? Your buyer, your recipient can get credit of this debit note which is pertaining to 1819, though it is dated today. Time limit to avail credit, section 16, subsection 4 of CGST Act. Whether he will get credit, say yes or no in your question answers tab and answer H. Credit would be available. This date on debit note pertaining to preceding financial year, like 1819 example which I took, is being delinked from 1st January 2021. So you need to look at debit note date today for determining time limit under section 16 subsection 4. So delinking is being done. Hope I'm clear to all of you. 1st January 2021. So it was debit note and credit note. Now coming back to last component of outward supply. Sometimes we do mistake that whatever outward supply is shown in 1 is not matching with GSTR 3B. This may be intentional to pass on the credit to the buyer. So let's say there was your 1 lakh rupees outward supply. You have shown 10 lakh rupees in your GSTR1 to pass on the credit to your buyer. But you are paying tax only on 1 lakh rupees through 3B. So there's a mismatch, 1 versus 3B. It may be intentional, it may be unintentional. If it is unintentional, then quite obvious, you're not habitual offender. You're not habitually doing this transaction. You're not habitually showing like that. There may be some time to error, it's human, happened. Then you need not require to worry. You can reply back. And subsequent month, you can always rectify this error that is available to you. But if you are repeatedly doing like this, 1 lakh is shown as a 10 lakh in 1 to pass on the credit to unscrupulous recipient and paying tax only on 1 lakh, and repeatedly you're doing that, then wake up call. Wake up call. Rule 88C. Notified from 26th of December 2022, not related to financial year 22-23. Can you say that? I'm asking you. Date of notification is 26th December 2022. So careful. You will get notice in DRC 01B Part A. And you need to reply within 7 days. Either you pay the differential amount or reply within 7 days Part B of DRC 01B. If you don't reply, don't pay, then notice for recovery. Rule 142B got notified 4th August 2023. And there would be notice for recovery even without issuance of so-called notice. So wake up call for all of you. So this was on ITC. Hope on ITC you got fair idea. Can I see some comment in your question answers tab that this part is very clear to all of you? Can you say that this part is clear to all of you? If clear, I will take your question. Don't worry. You can post, of course, like emojis are very good. I've seen on this Zoho platform. You can send thumbs up so that I can see that outward supply, you got fair amount. At least to me, I will get fair idea that you got fair clarity. Let's start with input tax credit purchase. Is the category B, purchase, category B. Okay, start with. Now, for ITC, for availing ITC, you need to remember for 22-23, for the condition to avail credit. What are the condition? Under section 16, subsection 2, the first, you should have tax invoice. Second, you must have received goods or services. Third, your supplier must have paid taxes. Be careful. Section 16, subsection 2, clause C, your supplier must have paid taxes. Fourth, you as a recipient or buyer regularly filing GST return under section 39, 3B. Fifth condition is important. Got notified from 1st January 2022. Whatever credit availed by you in 3B must match with GSTR 2B. GSTR 2B. Fifth condition. And sixth condition, whatever credit auto-populated in 2B should not be restricted under section 38. And there are 6 restrictions specified under section 38, but rules are yet to come. So at least to that extent you can relieve. But 5 conditions you must ensure is being satisfied. So when I'm talking about 22-23, let me start with, so that you can understand everything. Importance of section 16, subsection 2, clause B. First, receipt of goods or services. And you must answer in question answers tab. I'm going to ask you those queries. I'm your supplier. I've raised the invoice on 25th of September. Let's assume 25th of September 2022. Let's assume. I filed my one for September 22. It is auto-populated for you in your 2B for September 22. But you received the goods on 5th October. My simple question to all of you. Can you avail credit in September, even though auto-populated in 2B, but goods received in October? So you have to answer whether credit in September or credit in October. Please tell me. Question answers tab. Section 16, subsection 2, clause B clearly saying credit is available when you receive goods or services. So even though auto-populated in 2B, credit would be available only in the month of October. Hope this part is clear to all of you. Second part. Section 16, subsection 2, clause C. Your supplier must have paid taxes. Your supplier. So there may be a transaction that Bimal as your supplier has raised the invoice for 10 lakh. Let's say on 1st May 2022. And you are a very good guy. recipient, buyer, you paid the amount to me. You paid the amount to me, to the supplier. And supplier did not deposit with the government exchequer even after collecting the tax. My first question, can you avail credit? Can you avail credit, buyer? Section 16, subsection 2, clause C clearly saying, condition, your supplier must have paid taxes. A lot of notices and judgments started coming in now. You must have heard of a Patna High Court judgment in the case of Astha Enterprises. And it is clearly being stated that credit is not available if your supplier has not paid the taxes. We have prepared many other videos on this topic, so I'm not deliberating much. You can go back to my YouTube channel and watch this video a little later. But that is what the Patna High Court judgment. Pre-GST, we know a lot of judgment in our favor. Supreme Court judgment, KK Industries Limited. Under that, we got all favorable judgment, including Delhi High Court judgment, Arise India, except Bombay High Court judgment, Mahacotton Lakshmi case. Even in GST, we got Madras High Court judgment, DY Bethel Enterprises. That department can't demand reversal from the buyer, from the recipient, for the fault of supplier of non-payment of taxes. Department must initiate action against the defaulting supplier. But this Astha Enterprises Patna High Court judgment, its first ever judgment coming in GST saying credit is not available. So you have to go back and cross-check. You have to take your 2A and 2B, and you have to check the status of 3B filed by your supplier in your 2A. If taxes are not being paid, then this may be one of the transactions you need to be careful about. But let me tell you the one best. Rule 37A. Listen very carefully. It is very, very important for all of you. You must pay attention. Rule 37A, introduced from 26th of December 2022. Very interesting. Let me take the same example which I gave to you, that Bimal Jain, being your supplier, raised the invoice on 1st May 2022 pertaining to 22-23. You have paid the amount to the supplier, 10 lakh plus tax. Your supplier did not deposit. So what you would be doing? As per Rule 37A, and before I touch Rule 37A, you must go back, pick up your 2A and 2B, check the status of your supplier, filed or not filed from GSTR 2A. But what is Rule 37A is saying? Listen that part very carefully. And this is important date for all of you who are watching this webinar today. Rule 37A is saying, Bimal, the credit which you have availed on the invoice raised on 1st May 2022 is available to you only if your supplier must pay this tax by 30th September 2023. 30th September 2023 through GSTR 3B. If the supplier does not pay 30th September 2023, then you as a buyer, recipient, need to reverse this credit through 3B by 30th November 2023. Interest going to be levied if you have not reversed by 30th November 2023, but my take it interest leviable only when This credit may be alleged as wrongly availed, but if not utilized, to my mind, interest is not leviable. You can re-avail this credit as and when paid by your supplier. So let's say supplier paying in April 24. April 24. So whatever you have reversed by 30th November 23, which is paid by supplier in April 24, you can re-avail the credit. But interest, if paid, is a cost. For re-availment, question to all of you. Whether any time limit provision applicable, time limit under section 16, subsection 4, applicable. Let me clarify to all of you. Time limit provision of section 16, subsection 4 is not applicable when you look at re-availment, not applicable. So you will get the credit as and when paid by the supplier. So section 16, subsection 2, clause C, read with section 41, subsection 2, read with rule 37A, I have explained to all of you. Hope you will take care, along with the jurisprudence which is evolving. Next point, time limit to avail credit under section 16, subsection 4. It is the earliest of due date. Earlier, it was due date furnishing return for September under section 39, GSTR 3B, following the end of relevant financial year, or date of furnishing annual return. Now, the due date of furnishing September month 3B following the end of relevant financial year is being done away with. It is now 30th November. 30th November. I hope you're listening. Or date of furnishing annual return, whichever is earlier. This part is clear to all of you. Now, let me give you the background, the dispute and confusion all about. The two judgments back to back, only on this time limit. And I'm not discussing those judgments in detail. You can always go back to my YouTube channel and watch those videos, which is available. AP High Court judgment in the case of Thiru Malakunda Plywood and Patna High Court judgment in the case of Govinda Construction clearly stated time limit as specified under section 16, subsection 4 is constitutionally valid, and it is being held, it is not violative of Article 14, Article 19(1)(g), Article 300 capital A. There was confusion that section 16, subsection 2 start with a non-obstante clause, notwithstanding anything contained in the section. So it was assumed that section 16, subsection 2 overriding section 16, subsection 4. It is being also held that section 16, subsection 2 and subsection 4 are in different context. So it is not overriding. You have to be careful about this time limit. And for my submission, that when you talk about credit is vested right, it becomes vested only when we satisfy the condition on date of availment. Otherwise, it's a concession or only benefit extended subject to fulfillment of condition. So unless we satisfy the condition, it does not vested with me. And we can't argue Article 300 capital A. We have to be careful about time limit, 30th November. Now here one practical problem, and listen very carefully. And this is a very good time period when we are doing this webinar for getting more clarity. Listen very carefully. You are a buyer, recipient, and your supplier, right? Though the time limit is 30th November, but you have to be very, very clear that your supplier who are monthly filer of GSTR1. So October month, October 2023, return going to be filed by 11th of November 23, which will get auto-populated for recipient on 14th November 2023. If someone under QRMP and following invoice furnishing facility, then time period is 13th November for the October period. Gets auto-populated on 14th November. I'm asking one question to all of you. What happened if your monthly supplier for October 23 GSTR1 did not file, let's say don't file by 11th of November. He filed on 15th of November. My first question, is it going to be auto-populated in your 2B? When you look at your 2B on 14th of November? No. It is only on 14 December 2023. So what happened? Time limit is 30th November 23. Can you avail credit? It is not coming in your 2B. As per me, you need to cross-check. It is auto-populated in 2B, and 2B is one of the conditions from 1st January 2022. So you have to go back to all the supplier. You have to make sure all your supplier file October 23 return on time. Please, first part, on time. When I'm saying so, let me add another component to it. Let's say if your supplier has done any mistake in the past for 22-23. What kind of mistake? B2B supply wrongly shown as a B2C, not auto-populated in 2A, 2B. Or wrongly mentioning a GST number, not getting auto-populated. It was interstate supply, but wrongly furnished as an intrastate. It is showing, but ineligible. Supplier paid the taxes through 3B, but did not file 1. It is not coming in your 2A, 2B. Then if it is not coming in 2B, then credit would be denied. If your supplier has made any mistake, then time period, please wake up call. And that is the reason I'm explaining to all of you. And this October month return, GSTR1 going to be important one. Important one. So this webinar at the right time, right period. Any kind of rectification for any omission or error by the supplier, which I've explained, like B2B as a B2C, wrongly GST number, or wrongly furnishing inter, or vice versa, or he did not file 1. The time period prescribed under section 37 for any rectification of omission or error is 30th November, following the end of relevant financial year. But you need to ask your supplier and make sure that he is correcting such omission or error in GSTR1 of October only, so that the correct transaction gets auto-populated. Filing is October 23 return correctly for all such mistakes or omission by 11th November if it's a monthly filer, or through invoice furnishing facility, then 13th November, and gets auto-populated in your 2B on 14th November. Then credit would be available to you. If he's not correcting, rectification is not being done on time, as I stated, then what happened? Time period gone. You have to be careful about. Hope this part is clear to all of you. Can I see thumbs up on this point that you understood it? Can I see thumbs up so that I can proceed accordingly, that you got my point? Can you say that this part is clear to all of you? So lots of thumbs up. Thank you very much. So this is giving, positive vibration that you all are clear about. Thank you very much. Be careful. Now coming back, other compliances for ITC, input tax credit. Rule 37, second proviso of section 16, subsection 2. If recipient fails to pay value plus tax to the supplier within 180 days from date of invoice, this provision you need to go back in your books of accounts. You need to cross-check. You need to prepare that summary that whether you have paid within 180 days. Though otherwise under MSME Act criteria of 45 days, you have to be careful about. If you don't pay within 180 days as per GST law, then recipient need to reverse credit along with interest. And for interest, my answer to all of you would be, it is leviable. Yes, I do agree that it can be released, wrongly availed credit. But if not utilized, then no interest. Provisions say along with interest. And whenever you pay, you can re-avail the credit. And re-availment, there's no time limit condition under section 16, subsection 4. So you have to cross-check and verify. Please, you have to be careful about. And you know that in GSTR 3B, government has issued advisory, that GSTN has issued advisory, and they have said you have to correctly show your transaction. What is getting auto-populated in table 4A, table 4A5 from 2B, right? Credit from import of goods, import of services, all other reverse charge, credit from ISD, then 4A5, that credit auto-populated from 2B. Then table 4B has got two subtable. 4B1, you need to show your credit which is not eligible, 17.5, or you need to reverse Rule 42 and Rule 43, the common credit pertaining to input services for Rule 42 and capital goods, Rule 43 for exempted supply. And then any other credit like Rule 38, which is not available. And rule that table 4B2 is talking about that some credit which you are reversing, but you can reclaim. Like I discussed Rule 37, I discussed section 16, subsection 2, clause B, that goods invoiced in September but received in October. That table 4B2 is the appropriate one. And that is what the disclosure government want, that we must show in our GSTR 3B. You have to be careful. Then coming back to Rule 42 and Rule 43, I'm giving you one simple formula to all of you. Simple formula. Hope you will remember this formula for ITC. You should create three bucket for credit. Your ITC pertaining to taxable supplies, you should take 100% credit. So any GST ITC pertaining to taxable supply, you must take 100% credit kept out. ITC which is exclusively for exempted supply. And exempt supplies means which is exempted by way of notification, like 2/2017 for goods, 12/2017 for services, or chargeable to nil rate, or non-taxable supplies. If ITC pertaining to exempted supply, you should not take any credit. So second bucket, you are not availing any credit because those are related, directly related to exempted supply. Then whatever left out is a common ITC, common input tax credit. Here, pro rata reversal is required to the extent of exempt supplies. Rule 42 talks about reversal for input and input services. Rule 43 talks about reversal on capital goods. Pro rata, to the proportion of exempted supply divided by total turnover. By the way, let me ask one question. Let me check how many of you know this answer. When you need to reverse as per Rule 42 and Rule 43, because of exempted supply pro rata, what is the time period you should have reversed pertaining to 22-23? Let's say we are talking about closure of 22-23. By when you should have reversed? It is 31st March, 1st April, 30th June, or 25th September 23, or 30th September 23, or 30th November 23. What is date in your mind? You should have done, you should have done by 31st March 2023. That is what the rule talking about. Means 1st April 2023. When we are talking about financial year 22-23. So you have to be very, very careful about. So this is on Rule 42 and Rule 43. Now, having said that, you have to go back and check your books credit versus 2B versus 3B, so that you are getting prepared yourself for 9 and 9C, right? There may be a case you find some credit you have wrongly availed, which was not available to you. You have wrongly availed. What you should do? You should reverse immediately. Why you should reverse immediately? For the region, if it is not utilized, then you are safeguarded. No interest. No interest liable for reversal of wrongly availed credit but not utilized. Section 50, subsection 3, read with retrospective date, July 1, 2017. So any credit from 17-18 till date, if you find that wrongly availed but not utilized, you may suo moto reverse the same and no interest liable. If it is utilized, then interest liable. And what is the rate of interest? 18% or 24%? 18 or 24? 18%. 18% per annum. When I'm talking about 9 and 9C, let me give a clarity to each one of you. If your aggregate turnover up to 2 crore for financial year 22-23, then you are exempted. No GST 9 need not required. It is only applicable when your aggregate turnover is more than 2 crore. If your aggregate turnover up to 5 crore for 22-23, then no 9C, self-certified reconciliation statement not required. It is only applicable when it is exceeding 5 crore for 22-23. Hope this part is clear. Can I see thumbs up? Can I see thumbs up that this part is clear for 9 and 9C? Can you just send me thumbs up so that I get a clarity that this part is clear? Lot of thumbs up coming in. Thank you very much. So my audience is really good. They're liking it. Thank you very much to all of you. Now, having said that, now last bucket of, today's webinar. If you have done any mistake or there is any omission, it may be pertaining to your outward supply, or your supplier has done the mistake and you want him to correct now. This is the high time. You should ensure that if any mistake or omission, so any omission or error done by you as a registered person or by your supplier, then this is the high time you must listen, and this webinar is going to be important. When we are talking about closure of financial year 22-23, you have to be very, very careful. So let's say as a supplier is filing GSTR1, right? And I've said just a while ago that if your supplier has made mistake showing correct transaction B2B as a B2B but wrongly mentioned as a B2C mistake, then credit is not auto-populated in 2A, 2B of the recipient. Wrong furnishing of GST number, wrong furnishing of place of supply, or he did not file one which he was supposed to. He paid the tax through 3B, but he did not file one. There's a high time, section 37 of CGST Act, clearly saying rectification of any omission which you forgot, you did not show, or error you did but you did mistake. You should rectify such omission or error by 30th November 2023 as per section 37. But you should keep your mind not 30th November. It is October 23 GSTR1, which is going to be filed by 11th of November for monthly filer and 13th November for those who are invoice furnishing facility. So any kind of rectification for any omission or error, October 23 GSTR1 is important. Please, provision says 30th November. Another aspect, the time limit now filing your belated GSTR1. So maybe you have not filed GSTR1 for the past period for either or region. Now, Finance Act 2023 has provided a provision under section 37, time limit 3 years from the due date of furnishing your GSTR1. Maximum 3 years time period for belated GSTR1 not filed by you. 3 years time period. Coming back to GSTR3B, section 39. Again, wake up call. Any kind of rectification of omission or error, there may be a possibility you can go back, revisit your 3B also. And you find any omission or error can be rectified by 30th November, 30 November. So 3B for the October month, monthly filer by 28th November, right? But maximum time period 30th November for rectification of any omission or error. And here also time limit prescribed 3 years for belated GSTR3B from the due date of furnishing GSTR3B. And this provision for 37 and 39, 3 years time limit for belated 1 and belated 3B is being notified from 1st October 2023. 1st October 2023. I hope you all are paying attention to this two provision. Even section 44, again talking about for where you are supposed to file 9 and 9C, you're supposed to, you did not file. Time limit 3 years for belated 9 and 9C when you were supposed to file but you did not file. And this amendment is being done with effect from 1st October 2023. Hope you have grasped this provision for all belated 1, 3B, and 9 and 9C. But now the compliances part. Now GST is getting streamlined. This is the last topic of the day. Then we will have, your questions are important to me. I will respond back. But last one, compliances are important. ITC is becoming more talking point and more burning point, and where we are looking for the answer and clarity. There's many provision is being made. Two-way communication like a supplier and recipient communication all omitted from 1st October 2022. Two-way communication gone. Now credit for the buyer, for the recipient is dependent on the supplier. And a lot of provisions are being made. And those provisions are very, very important, which is now going to be, and I'm telling you, 6 months to 12 months, you will find a lot of ITC related dispute will go away. And how come? Listen very carefully. Rule 59 sub rule 6. Clearly saying, unless you file your 3B for the preceding tax period. So unless you file 3B for August, you will not be able to file one for the September. You have to make sure that you are making your payment of tax for August. Then only September 1 you can file. And this Rule 59 sub Rule 6 further got amended that the compliances of Rule 88C, 88D, Rule 10A. Another video you can watch on my YouTube channel. Second, if there's a difference between 1 and 3B, which I discussed, Rule 88C, habitually doing that, then wake up call. You will get a notice, Part A DRC 01B. And if you did not reply properly or did not pay the tax, then notice for recovery without issuance of so-called notice, Section 75, subsection 12. Otherwise, you should amend. Rectification of omission or error you must do. If it is error, nothing to worry about. And I'm sure that if you are doing any mistake, then it would be once or twice maximum. It can't be habitual. But those who are habitually doing that and creating problem in the ITC system, GST ecosystem, wake up call. 37. Unless you file a GSTR 1 till preceding tax period. So till August, if you're not filing one, you will not be able to file one for September. 37. And these provision amended from 1st October 2022. 39. Unless you file one for the current tax period, September 1, unless you file, you will not be able to file 3B for current tax period. First you file 1, then 3B. And 1 and 3B, they should be matching. You can't keep differences on. Otherwise, ready for the notice, Rule 88C. And another rule, Rule 88D, whereby, which is notified from 4th of August 23, credit availed in 3B is not matching with 2B. And this differential is exceeding that specified amount, which is being notified by GST Council. So if there's a difference and that difference is more than the specified amount, you will get now notice DRC 01C. You need to either reply back within 7 days or you have to pay up the differences. So a lot of provisions are being now made to streamline, create synergy. And now credit going to be dependent on supplier. So know your supplier. Yes, I do agree that credit getting dependent on supplier. So supplier need to be tax compliant. And then over a period of time, 6 months to 12 months for my submission, this credit going to be seamless. That is what is my view on this seamless flow of credit. Yes, I know challenges are there, but government is also making corresponding changes and things are happening. And over a period of time, yes, we have to really look at supplier, and supplier need to be tax compliant so as to ensure that credit which we are availing is foolproof and it will not be doubted and disputed by the GST department. I have tried my best. I'm asking each one of you now, one or two questions. For the closure of financial year 22-23, we are on 25th of September 23. I given you the flavor divided into three buckets: outward supply, ITC, then compliance with the rectification of omission or error. Given lot many insight what you can look at so that you are ready even for preparation of 9 and 9C. I'm sure you must have got good input, good insight, good pointers for you to take it forward. Am I right in saying so? If I'm right in saying so, then my presentation is successful, because my objective is that you must really gain from this presentation, this webinar. That is important one. Thank you very much to each one of you. Thank you very much. So thank you. So this was the question. Now I'm handing over to hers to take it forward now.
First of all, thanks a lot for this effervescent audience and lovely audience who, at this half yearly closure and on a Monday, busy Monday, took out this time. And more so, thanks to Bimal Jain sir. I'll also tell you this, when we were discussing for this webinar, Bimal sir was very concerned that as a CA, fellow CAs will be very busy. But yet he ensured that no, we want to impart these knowledge, and he made time and he ensured that on Monday it is available, so that by Friday, every CA, every fellow chartered accountants are ready for this half yearly closure. So, for this thought, a soft round of applause for Bimal sir. His passion and his care for his fellow CA is totally visible through this. Thanks a lot, sir, for this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So now I would want to give certain rest to sir. What I'll do is I have received a set of question and answers from our lovely attendees. I'll dictate these questions and sir will give answer to that. So I would be starting with first question of
Yes.
the day.
First,
Yeah.
one point. Is there
Yes.
anyone from your side for that presentation which we were talking about?
No, sir. Not for this presentation. The next presentation onwards, you will be available.
Okay. All right. So tell me, you're starting from the top or you're starting from bottom?
Do you suggest that shall we start from bottom so that
Start from the top, where Hers Agrawal comment is there.
yes, sir. So I have recorded those questions. So, sir, non-GST goods like petrol and DECE B2C sales. Do I need HSN code in GSTR1 by Vaishak?
See what happened, Hers, if it is non-taxable supplies. But even for non-taxable supplies, if you go back to GSTR1, they are looking for HSN details accordingly. That is my answer. Next.
Great. All right, sir. So again, a question by Vaishak. If a restaurant including banquet hall, in selling restaurant including Pepsi and 7-Up with cooked food as a GST registered dealer, what is the rate that we need to collect?
To me, it is a composite supply and it should be restaurant services, because we are not selling Pepsi in isolation. But issue is that there may be a sale of Pepsi individually also. So are we supposed to apply GST rate on non-alcoholic beverages? This is the big issue and dispute going on. But to my mind, in a restaurant, if someone is coming to even to take this Pepsi, objective is restaurant services. Otherwise, I would be simple dealer, simple supplier of these beverages. To my mind, it would be restaurant services.
All right, sir. By Rakesh, a question is, sir, please provide some light on Circular 170 by O2 by 2022.
Rakeshji, I do not know on what point you want me to draw the light. Blanket, you're talking about circular number 170. If you can just write your pointer that this is the point you want to have clarity, I would be delighted to answer you.
Right, Mr. Rakesh, just put your points on the Q&A tab. We'll get back to that question. Sir, a good question by Jayesh Garg. Sir, company paid GST on reverse charge on security service in fiscal year 22-23 and availed ITC of GST paid on RC. However, in two invoices, payments have not been done till September 2023 due to deficiency of service, and the same are not to be paid whether we need to reverse ITC claimed and what else is to be taken care of?
See, if you have received the invoice from supplier and that invoice are deficient because there is deficiency in service, then you should return back those invoices and should not book in your books of account. If you are booking in your books of account, then JS, you are creating a problem. Then department will come back and they will start date following the end of 60 days. As per section 13, subsection 3 of CGST Act, that would be troublesome for you. You should ask your supplier to take those invoices back, and you should reverse that transaction from your books of accounts. For simple reason, if you have booked that invoices, then this becomes subjective issue and litigative issue. My suggestion, it should be returned back until the time deficiency is being corrected. A fresh invoice you can ask from the supplier.
Right, sir. So a question by Rahul K. Whether retainer services falls under category of continuous supply of service?
Retainership services, I said as per section 2, subsection 33, clearly they are saying any service which is recurrent in nature for a period exceeding 3 months. If retainership contract for 12 months, I can always say it's a continuous supply of service. And then you can apply the provision of section 31, subsection 5 to my mind. Yes, please.
All right. By Pratik, the question is, sir, whether advance received against export of service needs to be reported in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B?
It is services, then there's a formula prescribed even for export of services. That formula you need to look at how to arrive at and then accordingly disclosed.
Right. Question by Rahul. How is the interest computed from 20th June or 31st May?
Interest in GST to be calculated on daily basis from due date of payment to actual date of payment. So it is 18% per annum, but it is pro rata on days basis, not like income tax, where part of the month is being considered as a full month. In GST, it is 20th June. I do not know in what context you have put this question, but it is on days basis for calculation of interest.
All right, sir. One question by Natrajan. What is the time limit for raising e-invoice for the assesses less than 100 crores turnover?
See, for less than 100 crore, there's nothing time lag specified. It is first time being stated only for registered person whose aggregate turnover more than 100 crore with 30 days time lag. Maybe over a period of time, this threshold going to be reduced. But please try to appreciate and understand it is only facilitation provided. But time to raise invoice as per section 31 is same. Like that invoice is nothing but e-invoice. Only because we are not used to, or because of some problem and obstacle, we are not being able to generate IRN. This facilitation is being given, but this will not be prolonged for a long time period. It will be reduced from 100 crore to 50, 50 to 20, like that, and then it will make compulsory. So that is how we have to be prepared accordingly. Yes.
Yeah, by Bipin, what would be scenario where ITC labs realized in audit an annual return filed in amnesty scheme?
I'm not clear what Bipin is looking for.
All right, no worries, Bipin.
One liner, it is not going clear to me.
All right, Bipin, I request if you are there, kindly just elaborate your question for sir to answer. By Pratik, whether advance received against...
I've answered this one.
All right, sir. By Jayesh, Company X raised invoice in 2018 against supply of goods to Company Y. However, the invoice was not reported by the Company X against GST in of Company Y. Since the invoice was not received and did not appear on GST Company Y, did not account for the invoice and no payment was being made. Now Company X is asking for payment with GST against old invoice. Company Y is ready to pay subject to X upload a fresh invoice on GST. What other measure can be done so ITC can be availed by Company Y?
Simple. If your supplier has not, furnished the invoice in its GSTR1 and time period got expired, then your credit would be doubted as a recipient, and that would be litigated for Section 16, subsection 4. So it is a dispute between you and your supplier. You should go back and talk to him. Unless you get a fresh invoice, credit is not available for 1819 transaction. So this is how you have to go back and talk to your supplier. I do not know what region this invoice was not received. You have not booked for. There are lot many factors, commercial dispute. So which I'm not answering here. But for you as a recipient, 1819 invoice, if today time limit condition, credit will not be available.
You can tell me what number of questions you're going to take, okay?
You can take a few more and we can then close.
All right, sir. By CRM, there is contract with JVVNL for electricity supply and poles and cable from JVVNL to premises which is to be purchased and installed. Payment of poles and cable also done by company. There is another condition: when agreement closed at any time, then company have no right to remove that poles and cable. That is, at that time, THES to be assets. I'm sorry, I'm not able to get it. Now, question is, whether it can be considered as plant and machinery as per GST law, and can we claim ITC?
This is a big question which is going on even in the case of safari retreats. It is being discussed that mall are plant, and that is how we all are discussing. So to my mind, of course, without poles and cables, supply of electricity can't be done. And we can always debate and litigate, is a plant and machinery, and hence it can't be denied on the pretext of immovable property. Maybe a good thought and good way to take it forward for the litigation perspective.
Right, sir. By Ashok, when the form DRC 8C and 8D will be implemented, sir, will it be for past cases also or for forward months only?
8C, 8D, I do not know. He might be talking about Rule 88C and Rule 88D. That's what he's referring to. So that is from 26th December 2022 for Rule 88C and Rule 88D from 4th of August 2023. To my mind, it is prospective. It is not retrospective. It can't be applied for the past period.
All right, sir. By Rajesh, sir, the invoice is not shown in October 23 2B, but the same is available in October 23 2A. Supplier filed the 3B and tax paid also. So cannot we contest the same as same is shown on or before 30/11/23?
I do not know, Rajesh, what you are contemplating here, if it is coming in 2A, because one is being filed by the supplier and taxes are being paid. Then the question is, why it is not coming in 2B? You have to find the reason for that. So just hypothetically, if you are saying that it is coming in 2A and taxes are also being paid, coming in 2A, then 2B may be technical glitches. You have to really raise a ticket and accordingly get it resolved. Unless otherwise there is other reason for that.
So Jayesh is having a small request that for benefit of all, can you create a comprehensive checklist or watch list of all compliance and transactions to be taken care on monthly and annual basis in GST?
We will try. We will try. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. By Prachi, if I have paid excess ITC availed in past years through DRC 03, should it be sufficient or I have to show it in GSTR 3B also?
It is sufficient but advisable. Please try to see what happened. This excess availed ITC which you have paid through DRC 03, you have really complied with. But your difference would be there to that extent because 3B is not showing that transaction. So while filing 9 and 9C, you must make the reconciliation and show accordingly that this differential amount is paid through DRC 03.
Gaurang, question is regarding reporting of GST ITC in GSTR of fiscal year 22-23, which was reported in table 4A section 5 and reversed in table 4B2 as per the circular 170 in GSTR 3B.
So it is reclaimable. 4B2 talking about whatever you can reclaim further. So if it is reclaimable, of course you can reclaim that. You can look at on what account these are being reversed in table 4B2. And once you're reclaiming, then correspondingly that the credit should be shown in 4D1 with the 4A5 in
Right.
GST 3P.
All right, sir. By Prachi, sir, what if a person has paid GST for an invoice for fiscal year 2021, which was cancelled later on? Is there any remedy?
Paid GST for invoice which was cancelled later on, then that invoice does not exist today. So if that invoice does not exist, what is the eligible document for availing credit? That would be disputed, Prachi. So why it got cancelled, you need to go back to the supplier and sort it out. Without
Right.
having a eligible document, credit is not available. Just paid GST does not mean credit is available unless you satisfy condition of section 16 subsection 2.
Right, sir. Sir, if recipient by Sanjeev, sir, if recipient passes the bill for payment 2 to 3 months after receipt of goods and services, example in construction contract or even for legal services under RCM, if any issues is if any issue in availing ITC?
Recipient passes the bill after 2-3 months. See, credit GST to be paid on accrual basis. Recipient can avail credit as and when they are getting the invoice. There's no issue. Only condition it must be paid within 180 days as per second proviso section 16 subsection 2. So to me, if it is being paid after 2-3 months, no problem, credit is available. Or
By
when you talk
Rajesh,
about even for legal service under RCM, legal service for RCM, they're the problem. Then date following the end of 60 days from the date of invoice would be the POT. There you need to be careful about. And RCM credit is available only when you pay the liability. And that is what you have to look at, because recipient subject to RCM, you pay the RCM liability, then only credit is available. Yes,
right,
speech.
sir. Yeah. By Rajesh, sir, this new belated provision of R1, 3B9 and 9C with effect from 1/10/23 applicable to old period also or applicable for the return period with effect from 1/10/23?
This is the point which is we are looking for the clarity from the department, that it would be what effective from 1st October 2023 for the onwards period or even for the past period. We have to wait and watch, because this question is being sent to policy being chairman of IDT committee, PhD Chamber of Commerce. We have raised and we are looking for the clarification from the department in this regard.
By Prachi, one more question. Sir, what if invoices skipped from uploading in GSTR1 but included in GSTR3B and taxes are paid? How these differences can be removed from site?
Ultimately, if it is not being shown in one Prachi, then quite obvious. If you have paid the liability, then 9(9)C correspondingly you can show that. And then to that extent, whatever you paid through 3B can be matched with table 9 of GSTR 9. That is the mechanism available. But for your buyer recipient, this would be very, haunting task, that this credit would not be coming in 2B of the recipient because you did not file one. To that extent, you need to really find ways and means. So for me, as I said, any rectification of omission error can be done till 30th November. You can look at this transaction unless this transaction pertaining to the past period, which can be reconciled through 9 and 9C.
So these were the questions. We have a couple of more questions. Are we willing to take it up?
Now we can sum up, because everyone is busy with their tax audit and so many stuff, and that is the reason. But my sincere thanks to each one of you who taken out your time and really participated in today's webinar, and that is very important point for closure of financial year 22-23. I know that we as a professional highly occupied, many occupancy for us, but still you're taking out so much time and sitting with me for last 2 hours. I must compliment and appreciate each one of you. I can't see, but believe me by heart, my compliment to each one of you that taking out time and joining today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, all. Thank you so much, sir. Zoho Books and A to Z Tax Corp team. We will share this video and we thank you all a lot. Good day. We'll meet again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.